5, yeah, okay.
Where is everybody?
Where is everybody?
We have 5, we have 5.
Yeah, we have 5.
All right, good evening. I actually mean it. Good evening and welcome to the July 22nd, 2019 council meeting. And our first item of business is a executive session. So I will announce pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 192.6602E, the Eugene City Council will now meet in executive session held pursuant to, I just read that, to deliberate with persons designated to negotiate real property transactions. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we may return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. And in fact, we will continue with our meeting after the executive session. So do I need to wait for a couple of knocks that we're return to public session. Okay, and yes, I'm a little worried about how this time is going to go, so we'll see. All right, did we get a thumbs up? Okay, all right. So, just a quick clarification on the agenda for all of you. I am moving, we will just do one item under committee reports and items of interest, and that is the resolution condemning white nationalism. All other committee reports and items of interest will delay until Wednesday, when we have a little more time. So I am going to turn that over to Councilor Semple, I believe, who has a motion to put on the table. You may.
Thank you very much. I bring this to council from the Human Rights Commission. It's a resolution, first I'm going to make the motion.
motion.
And then I'll talk about it.
Table. Yep,
You just gave me
here we go. I got it here.
one sentence. I move to adopt a resolution condemning white nationalism and alt-right activities and groups.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now please speak to it.
I'm bringing this resolution from the Human Rights Commission, a resolution condemning white nationalism and alt-right activities and groups. I'm going to read parts of it. The rest, all of it's on the city webpage. In alignment with City Council's goal of creating a safe and welcoming community, we value human rights, peace, respect, inclusivity, and equity, and recognize that we derive strength from our diversity. Therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eugene, a municipal corporation of the State of Oregon, as follows. Section 1, the City Council is committed to making Eugene a welcoming, inclusive, and safe community for everyone. We condemn hate, xenophobia, racism, white supremacy, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, sexism, and other forms of bigotry. Section 2, the City Council is committed to standing in solidarity with the people of Eugene in opposing white supremacy and creating a community where all people can safely, freely, and fully engage in our democracy. We will not tolerate hate in any form and will pursue policies to ensure civil and human rights to all individuals. Section 3, the City Council requests that the city manager explore convening public historians to identify, quote, sites of memory, end quote, and memorialize them in collaboration with Eugene's diverse artistic community to begin a process of reconciliation with Eugene's past, to actively acknowledge and address the remnants of Eugene's historical legacy, and to commemorate unsung heroes who have acted to counter white supremacy and discrimination.
Okay, thank you. I have three councilors wishing to speak, Mike, Alan, and then Claire.
This is a challenging resolution for me. On its face, it seems easy, and I'm happy to do things personally, like say that I think white nationalism and I think white supremacy are abhorrent, awful, terrible, mindless points of view. And I think they are beliefs that are reprehensible to me. And I think that the actions that come from those beliefs often are a proper thing for this city to absolutely make very stern laws about. But there are several places in this document where there are misstatements of fact. And I don't feel the need to go through all of those. But the one that genuinely bothers me is the idea that we're going to condemn people officially as a city organization, as a government, we're going to officially condemn people's beliefs. Now, I don't have any problem in the world condemning actions and making laws against actions that I find absolutely reprehensible. But I do have a problem condemning people solely for their beliefs. And that's the way this is defined in writing in the beginning. And my understanding is we don't condemn those things that you mentioned in section 1 there. We actually state them in the reverse, that we intend to create a community free of those things. We don't actually state that we condemn them. And my concern is that, for me, and I won't get too crazy nerdy about this, but when our country was founded, there was a bunch of folks that had concerns about religion, and they wrote President Jefferson in 1800, and this letter to the Danbury Baptists, as any ACLU person can talk about, talks about the separation of church and state, how there is and ought to be a separation of church and state because we don't have official beliefs. And we as governments don't create official beliefs. You get to believe any fool thing you want to, and so do I. But when it comes to actions, that's different. And the most important part is the third graph where he says, governments should concern themselves with actions only and never beliefs. So I'm going to run out of round 1 here, and I'm going to ask the mayor, please, will you put me in round 2? Will you do that, Mayor?
Got it?
And I will have an amendment to alter this so I can vote for it. Because I'll fight with you every tooth and nail, and as I've said 100 times, how horrible I think acts of racism are, and I'd like to work to end those. But beliefs and condemning them officially are a problem for me.
Alan?
I have a question. So the motion is to move to adopt a resolution, and then we have, but we have this resolution. Why doesn't it say this resolution from the Human Rights Commission?
I didn't write it myself, which I guess is a cop-out, but I don't know.
To clarify for the record, the resolution that is encompassed by the motion is the one that was included in your packet for today, that at the bottom has in red lettering, July 22nd, 2019 work session, the 3-page resolution. So that is what you would be voting on.
Thank you. That's a good clarification.
Claire?
Thank
Do you
you.
have more? I'm sorry.
I'll need round 2.
Oh,
Well, you can finish.
Okay.
Go ahead and finish. Okay. Claire?
well, I want to thank the members of the Human Rights Commission for asking us to consider this, and I want to thank Councilor Semple to bringing it to our attention. It is a very difficult topic to talk about, and I think it's challenging for elected officials who, we take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and free speech is a integral, important part of our Bill of Rights and our legal system. But by not taking a strong stand against the views that we are condemning here, we tacitly approve of them. Holding the view that some people are less than and deserving of being treated as less than and expressing such views is protected speech under our Constitution. But that doesn't mean that this body, the City Council, has to agree with and support that speech. And in fact, in order to help ensure that all individuals in our community feel safe, we must take this stand condemning these views, as these views and activities to promote them lead to harassment and violence directed at members of our community who have historically suffered great harms and real crimes against humanity. So this is not theory, this is reality on the ground, that these kinds of views and activities to promote them lead to physical and psychological harm to people in this city, people that this city should be protecting and helping to ensure that they are safe in our community. So I hope others on this council will support this resolution.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you. I can remember when the Nazis marched in Skokie back in the 80s, and I thought the Blues Brothers solution to that was a pretty good one. And in this case, I think it's a little different situation, because for the last couple of years, the thoughts and actions of a certain belief structure have become more and more the actions of that belief structure. And as Lao Tse said a couple thousand years ago, our thoughts become our words become our actions. And I think that's the point at which we have to be mindful and vigilant. I'm not saying that we should oppose religion or opinions or beliefs or whatever. I believe that absolutely. But this is something different. This is a form of hatred and bigotry and suppression of other people that I think it's for me, it's like yelling fire in the theater. It's just a thing that's apart. Now, what we're doing today is not a law, it's not an ordinance, a code, or a statute. It's a resolution. And I think it's important for us in that format to say what we believe in and what we don't believe in. Interestingly, the entire country of Germany has made Nazism as a belief illegal. It's against the law to be Nazi in Germany because they have atoned and acknowledged what they did in the past. This is simply a resolution, but it's a resolution that says what we believe in and what we hold dear. And I think what we need to say we hold dear is not the issue of free speech, but it's the issue of not tolerating bigotry and hatred. And for that reason, I think this takes on a different character, and it is something that I am very happy to support.
Thank you very much. Very eloquent. All right, Mike, second round, and Alan.
If this was a statement of those things, I would agree with you. For example, if this was a statement of intolerance of violent action, for example, against Antifa, who shed blood on the streets of downtown Portland 3 weeks ago, then I'd agree with you. If it was the same sort of excoriation of actual violence that took place in Seattle a couple of weeks ago, same group, I'd agree with you. And when we're talking about the actions of intimidation or the actions of violence or painting swastikas, for God's sakes, I agree with you. I'm happy to say those actions are absolutely repugnant and they have no place in our community. But we're talking about what people believe here, too. And that's why I'll make the motion, because I want to vote with this, that I move to simply remove reference to, and only reference to, solely people's beliefs in this resolution.
How are you doing
Be
that?
more specific about that? Because
There's
that's a
several
little vague.
sections, for example, in section, I think it was C, but I have to read through it.
Yeah, probably C.
Mentioned in C.
Yeah.
The belief that national identity should be. I just want to, when it's saying, talking about anything that talks about a group of people's belief or an individual's beliefs, and us officially as a municipality condemning them for those beliefs, I'd like to remove and leave everything else in place.
Well,
I'd like to see where they all
Can you be
are.
specific? Besides C?
how would you
change
phrase that? Yeah.
Well, I think it's fairly simple to identify. I mean, it would take us some time to go through each of them and identify them. But I think it's fairly simple to explain when someone's speaking about when any portion of it is saying we're condemning an individual or a group simply for their beliefs. Anything that talks about intimidation, anything that talks about violent action, anything that talks about damage of property, anything that talks about those sorts of actions, I'm happy to leave in and support.
Well,
This is why there are several parts of this that are factually wrong, too. For example, the part where it talks about us as a democracy, when we're obviously not. We're a republic, and the difference isn't minor. Well, Chris, you can laugh at me if you like, rather than be respectful. But I will tell you that that's not an insignificant difference to a lot of people. And so I don't think this is ready for voting on because, and I obviously don't have a quick second, so maybe I won't get it. But okay, thank you. I would very much like to vote for this. And I will say that in almost every single case, this council has considered some manner of ordinance that deals with this subject. I've supported it, and I've spoken pretty widely about it. But I can't go to the place where we condemn people officially for their beliefs, because who gets to decide next time?
all right, I have Alan, Claire, Jennifer, and Emily in the queue. Okay, Alan?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment the people that wrote this. I think it's extremely well written, and thank the HRC and Annalee for bringing it forward. I support it wholeheartedly. One of the things I think is really important about this resolution is Section H in particular, which doesn't sidestep our ugly history on race, including Oregon joining the Union as a whites-only state, refusing to ratify the 15th and 14th Amendments, enacting black exclusion laws, and our own city of Eugene actions that we have taken, including this is a very big stronghold for the Ku Klux Klan in our past, and white housing covenants and other things that we've done in our past. So I think putting those in the resolutions is extremely important because it's not turning our back on our history, but learning from it. And I think that's very, very important. And we should also not be lost on why we're having this conversation today. We're having this conversation today because of our current climate in our country, where people in our country tacitly and explicitly encourage and support white nationalism. And that's extremely scary to me. And I'm 100% opposed to that, to white nationalism and the things that are in Section 1 of this resolution. And we need to take a public stand and against this form of hatred, bigotry, and discrimination. And it's not outlawing beliefs. What it simply says is the city council is committed to making Eugene a welcoming, inclusive, and safe community for everyone. We condemn hate, xenophobia, racism, white supremacy, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, homophobia, transphobia, albinism, sexism, and other forms of bigotry. And the city is committed to standing in solidarity with the people in Eugene, opposing white supremacy and creating a community where all people can safely, freely, and fully engage in our democracy. We will not tolerate hate in any form and will pursue policies to ensure civil and human rights to all individuals. And I don't think that the people who espouse white nationalism believe that. And I think it's incumbent upon our part and our responsibility to make sure that we say that that's not right. So I will support the motion, or the overall resolution.
Okay, Claire?
Yeah, so I think it's an important distinction that our language here is not condemning the people who hold these beliefs, but we are taking a stand about the beliefs. And I think we should condemn beliefs that claim that white people are better than other people, just as I would support a resolution that condemned the belief that people who identify as gay or lesbian shouldn't be able to hold certain jobs or that they are dangerous to have around children. This is a time to take a stand against beliefs that we identify as tearing at the fabric of our democracy and our representative form of government, and against actions that serve to create more space for more people to adopt such heinous views. And we are in a position to make a strong statement affirming that we believe that all people in this community deserve to be able to be safe, welcomed, walk down our streets without fearing that another belief is out there that has empowered other people to take violent or harassing action against them.
Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, so first, thank you, Claire. I thought that was well said. It seems to me that C, first I'm going to talk about Mike's amendment and then I'll, in general. It seems to me that C is just a definition of what white nationalism, what we're saying it is. C doesn't really take a stand, I don't feel like, either way. I mean, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's how I see C. So I would not be in favor of changing it, because I'm not sure how you could change it. It's just a definition. So that's how I feel about that. But also, I just wanted to thank also the people who wrote this. I think they were, by reading it, it seems it's obvious it was very thoughtfully done. I especially appreciate sections 1, 2, and 3, where you really thought about, so now what? Like, this resolution means nothing if we don't take another step. It's just like clicking like on your Facebook. Like, that, what does that even do? We need to actually take that next step and do something. And we often, especially, I know myself as a white person who doesn't necessarily experience some of these things, it's easy to not stand up and say something, and that's where we are now. We all can't let things go anymore. We have to be able to stand up to our friends and say that's not okay. And I see 1, 2, and 3 as being that. This is what we're going to do next. And I'm especially impressed with number 3. I think it's an excellent idea to look at our own history, really take stock of it, and find ways that we can get those stories into the public that people don't necessarily know about, because things get lost, especially the things you don't want to remember. So thank you so much for bringing this forward, and I will be voting for it.
Thank you. Emily?
Thank you. I'm in favor of this, but I do understand, I think, some of Mike's concerns. I wouldn't want to say anybody couldn't believe something. I mean, it's not illegal to think, at least in this country so far. So I think maybe part of my problem is, what does condemn mean? You know, what's the definition of condemn? Are we condemning you for believing something? What does that mean? Are we exiling you? Are we sending you straight to hell? But, you know, it's not an ordinance. It's not a law. It's a resolution that says Charter thinks actions from these beliefs are damaging. So believing that a swastika is a good thing is different than spray painting red ones up and down West Broadway has happened. So I'm not condemning a person, even though I may think that their morals are hellacious. So I guess I just like a little bit more ideas about this. You can believe whatever you want, but you can't do bad things because of that.
Okay, all right. All right, Chris and then Betty.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, where does belief end and deed begin, or action begin? I think whether it's a resolution or not, it would be extremely difficult to enforce or pursue anything if you have something in your heart. If it's here in my heart and that's the only place it is, how will I ever know? You can believe whatever you want to, and whether we pass this resolution or not, I will never know what you believe in your heart or not. I think what they're trying to say here is when that belief begins to bubble out, whether it's a swastika painted on a wall or a Twitter post, it's when it starts to come out. That's the part that Lao Tzu was talking about. It's very hard to keep that kind of thing deep where nobody can see it. It comes out. And where does it say, well, I'm just expressing my belief? If I want to yell out my car window as I drive down the street, that's just me expressing my belief. I think it's very hard to do, and we start parsing out what is and what isn't, what's okay, what's not okay. I think this resolution is intended to say what our belief is, what our policy is around this issue, and express it outright, what my belief is around this issue. I'm not going to shy away from it. I believe this. I believe this is how we should be. But I'm not going to expect anyone to enforce it or tell me that I can't believe that way. And I'm not going to tell a neo-Nazi that they can't believe in their heart. And I don't think that's what this is trying to do.
Betty?
I just don't see the need for the resolution. I think we already have laws that prevent people from doing bad things, and I don't know of anything that's been happening that we need to make a resolution against. There are already, if people paint swastikas, there are already laws. And I just don't understand the need for the resolution at all. And I do agree with that we can't regulate beliefs. Right now, I hesitate to say it because I don't remember who said it. I disagree totally with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And Mike probably remembers that, being a historian, but I can't really think of the name of the person right now, so that's all.
Okay, we're going to move forward, but I'm going to say one thing, which is that we have a legacy in this country. We passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, which essentially said you may believe that blacks are not worthy of equal rights, but we don't allow that under the law. And so I don't think we're breaking any new ground here by making a statement about the kinds of behavior that we consider unconscionable and unacceptable as a community. And my own feeling is, in terms of what's going on in the world today, if we don't do something now, when will we do it? If we don't do this, what will we do? But we should act on the atmosphere that we are experiencing in our own community as a model to other communities, and the council should be proud to have this before them. So I have Mike and Claire both asking for one more round, and then we're going to vote on Mike's motion, and then we'll vote on the main motion.
Emily, I really appreciate what you said because you clarified thinking for me, and you're right. We're not saying in this that someone's belief is illegal. We're saying we're condemning their belief. And I didn't think about it clearly enough that way. You're right about that. That's a difference of this much, but it does matter. We're not saying you can't hold your belief. We're saying we condemn your belief. And that's subtly different. That's not an unimportant distinction. But what we are saying here is we're adopting a resolution condemning, by definition, people who hold a particular belief. That's, I mean, if you read from the motion to item C, we're condemning people who hold a certain belief. And my problem with that is a different council one day, made up of different people, made up of people with different beliefs. And we're saying this is the official belief of the city of Eugene, that we condemn people who hold this belief. And I'm not comfortable saying what the official belief of the city of Eugene is, because I think all of us as individuals get to hold different beliefs. And I think that's the very nature of what it means to be American, is that we all get to hold different beliefs. And that's the whole reason for the separation of church and state, is because there is no official belief. And I think some future council that's made up of different people with different beliefs, what's the difference between that and saying that someone's belief about a religious idea is officially condemned? Someone's idea about fairness or justice that a particular group of counselors think is wrong can be officially condemned by the city, and it's the city's official view that that belief should be condemned. I'm just not comfortable with that, so I hope you'll support my motion.
Claire, one more comment?
Yeah, thanks. Protectors of free speech often say the best way to combat speech we find offensive is to respond with more speech that counters the offensive views. And we should defend people's right to express their views. And then we also have the right, and in some cases, the obligation to respond, and in the right circumstance, condemn the expression of views we find dangerous and unacceptable. And that is what this resolution represents, a statement by our community that the belief and the expression of that belief that whites are a superior race is to be condemned and is an unacceptable view to be expressing and acting upon in our community.
Okay. Thank you for that eloquent statement. So we are going to vote on Mike's, yes,
So before you vote, I wanted you to understand the nature of the vote.
Right.
So if you pass this.
right?
Then we will need to actually make the actual changes to the
Right.
resolution
Right.
before you can take your
That's right.
final vote.
That's right. I understand that. I understand that. And then I'll get to,
I want to know what his motion is exactly.
okay, yes.
I'm confused.
Absolutely.
To remove any reference to any person or group's belief.
So we would have to take, we'd have to.
Item C would have to be altered or rewritten
Well, we'd have to rewrite the whole thing to vote on.
in several other places, but I'd be happy to support it at that point once it's removed from belief to action.
So we would need to do that on Wednesday then?
I
Sure.
don't know when we would get to that.
Yes, essentially, what you would need to do is postpone final action on the resolution until the changes could be brought back to you. Practically speaking, that would mean Wednesday, unless you
I
figured it out in the next half hour.
Yes, I don't know. Okay, Alan?
I guess, Counselor Taylor, if we made that change, would you support it? I'm interested in potentially doing it if we get an unanimous vote.
You're asking me,
Wait, what
Yes.
change?
Is that
Counselor
legitimate?
Taylor's comment was, I don't see the need to do this. What change are you, Claire?
To remove
If we
belief,
make this
just deal with
change.
action.
Change, just remake.
Probably, I don't know if that's in order to ask whether I would vote for it or not, but
Sure it is.
Okay,
It
all right,
is.
all right. Without,
you've declared that it is, okay.
without getting this too murky, we have a proposal on the table, a motion on the table to review the wording and adjust the wording and bring this back for another vote. I'm not sure about the date that I can promise to do that. Just being fair, we've punted 2 other items on the agenda that also have to go to Wednesday. So keep that in mind. Time is an issue, timeliness is an issue. So ready for a vote on Mike's motion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that goes down. Now, are we ready to vote on the, did you want to modify your motion? Did you want to amend your motion?
Oh, don't know if this helps, but what if we take out "and groups"? I move to adopt a resolution condemning white nationalism and alt-right activities. So it takes out people and groups and just is a belief and an activity. We're not condemning a person.
So to be clear, then, what your motion actually would be doing is amending the title of the resolution. And then you would be removing, I think you said, the last 2 words, "and groups."
Right.
So you could certainly make a motion to amend the resolution by deleting "and groups" from the title of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Chris?
Are you saying that it's okay to be a white nationalist group?
No, I'm taking "and groups" out.
That's what I'm saying. You're not condemning, so if somebody wants to be a white nationalist group, we're saying that's okay. We're not going to condemn that.
I was just thinking about getting back to the activities rather than,
I think it's nitpicking. I
Okay.
think we need to say we don't like it, period.
okay,
There.
Okay. Okay, so,
I'll
Mike?
drop it.
Thank you.
Move it.
Emily, I appreciate that. I won't vote in favor of it because it does, even though with that change, I think is a good one because that's an, this is dangerous stuff. I really think this is dangerous stuff because it's a matter of perspective. Who holds the majority gets to define who gets condemned, and condemning people as opposed to actions is absolutely wrong. We have resolutions talking about this. We have resolutions that forbid us from collecting information about people's beliefs for this very reason. And it's just wrong.
Okay. You are withdrawing?
Yeah,
You're gonna withdraw that amendment?
I don't like voting on stuff that I'm not really clear about. I brought this resolution. I think that the thought behind it is right on. It's not a law, so I guess I could just go along with the emotion of it. But I don't want to set that precedent. I don't want to vote against this. I want it to be unanimous, but I've got a little problem going on right now.
Well,
Mayor, in order to withdraw the motion to amend, it requires permission of whoever
right, of the
seconded.
second, yes, I was just about to turn to Betty. Do you second her decision to withdraw her amendment?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, all right.
So you're back to the.
Okay, so we're back to the main motion, and I'm ready for a vote. All in favor of the main motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. It passes. Thank you very much. That was a robust conversation and a painful one. So it is now 7 o'clock. We have 2 remaining agenda items.
I don't know how long it would take to do the riverfront. We were close the other night, so that might
Yeah,
take
maybe
within
we could
10
do the-
months, or
maybe-
10
maybe
months,
we
10 minutes.
yeah.
Or we can try to scoot that in on Wednesday as well.
I'd just like a sense of the council. Can we extend for 10 minutes and wrap up the riverfront vote so that we don't have to move that to Wednesday?
questions answered?
Claire?
Point of personal privilege,
Yes.
I do need to eat dinner before I
You
say.
do need to eat dinner. So 10 minutes, so can you hold it to 10 minutes? It's back for your clarification, Alan, so the burden is on you to be very succinct and brief.
Oh, boy.
All right. Okay. So riverfront.
I'll be here to answer questions.
I would.
What's that?
Go now. I would.
We're only here to answer questions, guys.
We have no presentation.
It's just hubba hubba.
So we prepared a memo at Councilor Zelenka's request that was sent to you on Friday. I think all of you have a copy also in front of you. So we're here to answer any questions related to that, as well as any other questions you have related to the land use adoption package.
Okay, Alan, did you have questions you needed?
Yeah, there
on
were
this?
two concerns that I had with what we were doing, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't locking ourselves into something that we didn't do wittingly. And the first one was the setbacks, and the problem being the capstone setbacks, which universally has been pretty condemned in terms of building right up to a very narrow sidewalk and on 11th, and we had a conversation about that, and pretty much everybody I've ever talked to thinks that that was a wrong thing to do. So I wanted to make sure we weren't replicating that same mistake here with the setbacks. But after talking to staff, and they spent an hour with me, so I very much appreciate all of that. And this is actually a recitation of that discussion that we had. And this is different, and we did learn from Capstone, and those learnings are embedded in here, I think, in that these are wider sidewalks. They're 15 feet. They have not necessarily planter strips, but there's trees being planted so that they break it up, and in that 15-foot with grates around them. So there's the street trees part of it. The building heights have limits, and where you are with regard to the elevation associated with the windows is very, very different. And then finally, probably one of the biggest ones is design oversight, where we have design review with Williams and Damon about what this looks like and what the quality of the materials are and how it gets done. So with that, I'm still nervous about this because I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know that there's a way to completely lock this down, but I think this is, wanted to make sure that we weren't making that mistake. So thanks for pointing all those things out. The second one was about parking, and I didn't want us to unwittingly have the code back us into having to build a multi-million-dollar structured parking somewhere because we didn't deal with it in the code correctly. And a couple of things on that. One is that the developments, the private development parks itself, meaning the uses get parked, the residential, the hotel, all that gets parked by itself. What's left is the parking for the plaza and the park and some of the commercial uses, like the restaurant and whatnot. So, and there's 135 on-street parking spaces, which isn't a whole lot, but I wanted to be able to think about that and the steam plant in particular, related back to an earlier conversation, about how that all works and make sure we didn't back ourselves into having to build future parking. And one of the interesting things that Capstone did actually was hide the parking on the inside, but they overbuilt their parking. They're actually by about 100 slots. And now we have 100 public slots in there that are being used by the public as opposed to by the facility. So the things are evolving. So this gives us some time to think about that and be reflective of it, but also I don't think necessarily locks us into having to build anything on that regard.
Thank you. All right. Any other needed discussion on this? Betty?
I have a motion, thanks to Glenn.
Okay, excellent.
It will save us time.
Thank you.
I move the motion on today's agenda, item 3. That's from our...
Second? I'm not sure what that means.
That's this motion. She's just not reading the whole motion. It's item 3 on the work session.
So to be clear, especially for the public, this would be adopting the land use package that's been through the planning commission and come to you. It's just shortening it so you're not reading every single item.
And that we discussed fully
Didn't
on.
save any time, Glenn.
And maybe we could have just read it, but we did discuss it fully last Monday.
Right.
Whatever day that was, Wednesday. Okay. All right, all ready to vote? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, none opposed. Well done, we did that in 4 minutes, and we are adjourned till 7:30.
Thanks to our former...